I think we'll give everyone one more minute to take your seat and then we'll get started. Okay. Danielle, do we have thumbs up to go? All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so very much for being here and for joining the Idaho State Historical Society in partnership with Lucky, the Wit and Wisdom of Governor Phil Batt, author Rod Gramer, for a book signing and birthday celebration honoring Governor Batt. Yes. Woo. And the singing and the cake come later. So I'm Janet Gallimore, the Executive Director of the Idaho State Historical Society, which includes, of course, this beautiful State Archives and State Records Center, the State Museum, the State Historic Preservation Office, the Old Pen and Historic Sites. We preserve and promote Idaho history. And it is my privilege to start the evening by introducing a number of our amazing special guests here in the front two rows. Governor Brad Little and First Lady Teresa Little, Governor Butch Otter and First Lady Lori Otter, U.S. Senator James Risch, former governor, and First Lady Vicki Risch, Governor Dirk Kempthorne and First Lady Patricia Kempthorne, and Governor Batt and First Lady Francie Batt. So we're so grateful for you all being here tonight. Thank you. I also want to thank members from our congressional delegation present who joined us. We have a number of staff from Senator Crapo and from Congressman Fulcher. Thank you for joining us. Our board chairman, Bill Butici, and our Foundation for Idaho History President, Marianne Arnold. And special thanks to our Idaho State Archives staff, including Danielle Worthy and also David Matty, our state archivist, and the entire Idaho State Historical Society team who put this together tonight. But Governor Batt, we are most grateful for your years of service to our great state. And I don't know that everyone knows this, but we are especially fortunate that Governor Batt had the vision to create this Idaho State Archives building. And early, he understood the importance of records and thought that the state needed a proper state archives to preserve and provide access to those essential fiscal, administrative, legal, and research records of our state. I think all of you who do research, or all of you who are in this room, understand the power of evidence and facts, and these vital records provide transparency in government and a record of the critical decisions that people who are our leaders make that shape our future. So among the hundreds of thousands of manuscripts, photographs, newspapers, maps, and government records that date to the territorial time and move all the way to the present, this facility holds and provides all access to those records, including all of the records of our governors. And we're very grateful to be the repository for the governor's records. We hope that everyone will take advantage of the tour later on in the program. We have a very special tour of the records area where the governor's materials are. We call it the Governor's Vaults, and that's a very special treat if you have not seen those. And then finally, just in closing my introductory welcome comments, I want to just share with everyone that history, saved and preserved, is the foundation for future generations. Historical knowledge is crucial to preserving our democracy, and by preserving authentic and meaningful documents, artifacts, images, stories, and places, like we do at the Idaho State Historical Society, future generations have a foundation upon which to build and know what it means to be an Idahoan and an American and a member of the civic community. Thank you, Governor Batt, for your legacy, this building, and this repository that you left for the people of Idaho's future. And at this time, I would love to have everyone join me in giving a large welcome to Governor Brad Little.
Thank you, Jan. Governor, when you put this together, there's a little bit of a risk of all five of us being here. They may keep us in here as artifacts. And in fact, some of your very dark-haired staff that started with you, who most of them aren't very dark-haired now, they might be kept here as artifacts also. But just to put things in perspective, when Phil Batt started in the House, our territory was 102 years old. Today it's 169 years old, so do the math about how long Phil Batt has been serving the people of Idaho. And I'm not saying that when he got through being governor he was done, because he continued to serve the people in so many ways and shape, including giving us awful good advice, sometimes solicited and sometimes not so much. But Phil's been an incredible mentor to me. Matter of fact, Phil, and this might be your fault, was the first person that urged me to run for the legislature. And I used the excuse that the kids were home and I was running the ranch. And Phil immediately told me 3 reasons why that was not a good excuse. But eventually I got there. But all of us have looked up to Phil for what he did. And a large part of his incredible focus on the future of Idaho, whether it be education, whether it be roads, whether it be conservative governance to where we weren't spending too much money, all of us have followed in his footprints because of what he did time and time again for the people of Idaho. It's an incredible honor for me to be here, and it's an incredible honor for me to call Phil Batt one of my best friends and mentors. Thank you very much.
Rod, I apologize. I'm not going to read what I wrote. I don't want Brad to give a shorter speech than me or anybody else. And he hasn't so far in the State of the States, I've noticed. But I really can't remember when I didn't know Governor Batt. Phil and I both came from Canyon County, and for a while we were in competition with each other with the onion business. He did a much better job than I did. I was running the sheds for Simplot in several locations, and he was out at Allendale, as I recall. And between the hops and the onions, he gave me quite an education. But most important, Phil, like Brad, just like Brad, Phil was the one that kind of got me involved in politics. I came home from active duty in the military in '69. And Phil and some folks were in the Senate and leadership in the Senate, and I became the assistant secretary and the assistant parliamentarian of the state Senate for 2 years, '69 and '70. And a few years later, I was back working for Simplot, and I went to the Chamber of Commerce wrap-up luncheon that Senator Phil Batt was given the wrap-up in what they had either achieved or not achieved in the legislature that year. And he noted that Clyde Keithley and Jerry Jenkins, the 2 people that represented then Legislative District 12 in the state legislature, weren't there. And he said, Butch Otter ought to run. And by golly, I ran. And that started quite an odyssey. So, when I look back at it, 4 years in the state House of Representatives, 14 years as lieutenant governor, 3 terms in the United States Congress, and then 3 terms as governor. So, Phil, you really set me on a course. And Phil has always been very forgiving. He one time told me, because I was his lieutenant governor for 4 years, he one time said, Butch, you're the most useful and utilitarian governor that I've ever had, lieutenant governor that I've ever had, that anybody could ever have. I said, well, why is that, Governor? And he said, because I can use you as a good excuse and a bad excuse, both at the same time. And I know that was Phil's subtle way of saying all is forgiven, because I had made some bad decisions that were very highly publicized. But he always, he reminded me then of a great saying, is that those need love the most when they appear to deserve it the least. And so Phil, thank you very much for everything. All I can say is I wish you were born twins.
Well,
Phil did not urge me to run for public office. Wisely, probably, but I needed him. I didn't realize it, but I did need him. I met Phil in the fall of 1974. I was elected to the state legislature that fall, and we became good friends after that time. I had spent a couple of terms as a prosecuting attorney here. In fact, I prosecuted cases when they burned this place down here behind us. But when I got there, Phil will deny this, but he became a mentor of mine and truly taught me how to govern. You don't learn to govern when you're doing an executive job like being prosecuting attorney, and Phil did teach me a lot. And that this is my 42nd year in a Senate in one way or another, 28 here and 14. And I can tell you, Phil, I've taken the stuff that you've taught me. By the way, you are a great teacher, kind and gentle. But occasionally, the tough love is needed, and you weren't afraid to dole that out. Yeah. It was, but I learned anyway. Phil, the good news, there's nobody I share more exclusive clubs than I do with you. 1974, I go up and I look at that picture in the Capitol of the class, or the senators of 1975. 3 of us are here, then there's 2 more, and that's all that's left. And so we're a member of a pretty exclusive club there. There's only a handful of us that were president pro tem of the Senate, and then there's only a handful of us that were lieutenant governors, some sitting here, and then of course this small class of governors. The bad news is these clubs keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller, but they are exclusive clubs. Look, Phil and I sat next to each other on the floor of the Senate. When I went there, the Senate chambers here in Idaho, the leadership sits in the back row. Back in the U.S. Senate, they sit in the front, but here they sit in the back row, and you can't get up and walk around, so we spent a lot of time with each other. Back in D.C., you can come and go and what have you. But we worked really, really hard, but we had a lot of fun too, didn't we, Phil? Phil was a practical joker. So one day, I've got lots of these, but I'm only going to tell one. So one day, I was a young, I'd come in as a freshman. I was sitting in the front row, down in the very front seat, and Phil was majority leader sitting in the back seat. Bull Ellsworth was the president pro tem. You remember that, Phil? And I was a young attorney trying to make a living. Well, this was long before cell phones and long before much of anything else, but I did have a pager. And so my secretary could page me, or someone could page me if I could get some business or what have you, or anybody wanted to get a hold of me. And it drove some of the old guys nuts, didn't it, Phil, when we had those pagers. But anyway, Phil, one time, as the debate was droning on and on, paged me. And he saw me sitting out in front of him. And with the way these pagers work, they weren't voice pagers. All that happened was a number would come up. And so Phil saw me pick it up, and then he saw me pick up the phone and dial. The problem was I didn't call Phil. I had another call I had to make. Fortuitously, Phil's phone rang on his desk. Do you remember that, Phil? And he said, "Hello, you big turd." It was not me. It was the chairwoman of the Republican women from Wilder, Idaho. Anyway, I got lots of Phil Batt stories. Phil, God bless you. I couldn't have done what I've done without you. Phil will admit to mentoring me when I do something good. When I do something less than admirable, he will say that he could have done a little bit better, and I truly appreciate that. Phil, God bless you. I can't think of many people that, if any people, that have done more for the state of Idaho, not only you yourself, but the way you've mentored all of us, and we've carried that forward. God bless you, Phil. Thanks for what you've done.
Governor Batt, I'm going to tell all of you something. While we were seated here and everyone else was taking their seats, we are commiserating back and forth, seeing all of you. Oh, there's so-and-so. the reason there's 5 of us that are sitting here is because of you. Okay, we don't believe it is not lost on us. And there's one in this audience I want to recognize, and that is Rebecca Batt. I got to know the Batt family well when I worked for Phil Batt. And Phil, I want to say, every day I worked for you, I was proud of it, absolutely proud of it. We had fun. He took me to Sinker Creek. I learned that he said, we're going to have lunch up there. It'll be hi-hos and cheese. I didn't know what a hi-ho was, but it's a Ritz cracker. That's the generic brand. Sometimes we'd be roaring across the state to get. I'd be driving the Batmobile, and he'd be sitting there. And you know, he's known for his humorous stories. So I mean, for like 1 hour solid, he's going one after the other telling me, and he wanted me to grade them. And so I would grade them on my own laughter meter, you know, and sometimes they weren't even getting off the chart. And then he reminded me he was the candidate and the boss. Man, that thing just went. What I wanted to say is all in this book. So you got to buy the book. Rod, is that what you wanted me to do? Yeah. Here's what I want to say, too. When I think of Phil Batt, and boy, talk about tough love, you're correct. You're correct, Jim. I have seen him vet at people. Man, I'd stand there and watch it and just think, oh, man, he really knows how to vet, okay? But then there would be times I was the object of his affection. Boy, can he vet. And it's much more pleasant to be the one observing it than receiving it. So, but here's what I'd like to say. And Senator Risch, you have it on your lapel, and that is the American flag and the flag of Ukraine. What we're watching now in history is the total degradation of human dignity and human life and the disregard for the civility of the world. If anyone personifies civility and dignity and honor to one another, it's Phil Batt. All of the proceeds of this book goes toward the Wasmuth Center for Human Rights. This is the man that, after not being elected governor the first time, did not roll things up and go home. No, he rolled up his sleeves, and he determined to continue to work exponentially throughout the entire, every county of this state. And what he brought to them with the politics was the brand of dignity and respect and the human touch. And that's why I believe that this state is so often regarded as truly one of the finest states in the Union, that 43rd star in the galaxy of states, because we've had leaders like Phil Batt that when he would take the stage, the podium, whatever the case may be, you always knew of the dignity and honor and sense that came from his heart. A brilliant mind, but a magnificent heart. And I think that's why we all come today to celebrate the 95th birthday. Because this man is a man that has given all of us much. But when I say all of us, I mean all of the state, all the people. We know what dignity, and we know what righteousness, and we know what honor is. God bless Phil Batt for being one of the mentors.
For our next speaker, we would like to invite author Rod Grammer. Rod is passionate about his native state of Idaho and works every day as president and CEO of Idaho Business for Education to improve the quality of life for its citizens through a strong education system. Rod is the author of 3 books: Fighting the Odds, The Life of Senator Frank Church, which he co-authored with historian Leroy Ashby. Rod is also the author of a novel, The Good Assassin. He is the force behind the book, which honors our special guest this evening, Lucky, the Wit and Wisdom of Governor Phil Batt.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me in the back there? Jason, can you hear me? Yeah, thank you. Governors, it's a great honor to have you all here tonight, and thank you for coming. It's wonderful, and I'm sure Governor Batt really appreciates you being here today. I would like to thank a few people before reading from Lucky. First of all, I'd like to thank Janet for hosting us tonight. What a wonderful event this is, and for all your support for making Lucky happen. And I'd like to thank David Maddie, wherever David is, in the very back, because when I came here to work on Lucky, the archives opened their archives to me so I could find some of the wonderful pictures of Governor Batt that are in this book. And at the time, David said, hey, when the book's published, why don't we host an event at the archives for Governor Batt and the book? And so this is the culmination of that, which is about 1.5 years ago, maybe 2 years ago, that David suggested that. And I'd like to thank Danielle Worthy for helping organize this event tonight. What a great event. There are some other people, though, I'd really like to thank. I'd like to thank Eva Gay, Yost. She was my liaison throughout the project with Governor Batt and Francie. I don't know how many emails we exchanged, but Eva Gay was just a great partner in this project. Of course, I'd like to thank Governor Kempthorne and Governor Otter for contributing to the book. Excellent essays on Governor Batt. And I'd like to thank Francie for opening your house to me multiple times, searching for pictures and everything. But most of all, I'd really like to thank Governor Batt, because Governor Batt was so generous with his time. We did 3 hours of interviews for the book, and countless hours looking for pictures and exchanging emails, and through it all, he did it with great humor and patience. So this book would not have been possible without Governor Batt. So thank you, Governor. I'm going to read a couple excerpts, and I'm going to let my colleague Lindy High come up, who also contributed, and she's going to read a little bit from the book. And I'm going to start. I just took out my page holder. I'm going to start with a couple excerpts from the interview. So, as you all know, Governor Batt loves animals. And so this section of the interview is called On His Menagerie of Pets. So, I ask, you have always been surrounded by pets. When you were Senate President Pro Tem, you had a bird in your office named Birdie. You had Sniffer the dog. Now you have a golden retriever named Sullivan or Sully. Why have you always had so many animals around you? Governor Batt. Oh, most people do, and they're wise to do that. This dog, he points to Sully, who's laying at his feet, who is resting at his feet, is the friendliest and smartest dog, just a great dog. Me. I remember coming into your office for an interview when I was a reporter, and your bird Birdie would start jabbering at me. Governor Batt. He had about 30 good words. He could say, Cecil is silly, every time I asked him to. I put in parentheses, Governor Batt smiled at that. Me. I remember him giving other people a hard time, including some very nosy reporters. Governor Batt. Yeah, right. Short and sweet. Here's another excerpt, a little bit more serious than that one. This is under the heading of human rights. And if you buy the book and read the book, you'll see that this is a constant theme in the book. Me. After you returned to Idaho from the service, you made the decision to drop out of the Elks Club. Tell me about that decision, Governor Batt. One of my best friends was a Japanese feller, Kei Inoue, very good friend of mine, and I tried to get him into the Elks. They wouldn't take him because he was Japanese. He was a really good man. And the club just turned it right down. So I wrote them a letter, and I was dropping. Me. Did they change their policy because you dropped out, Governor Batt? No. As a matter of fact, I got a lot of criticism from other folks. But no, I never tried to join again. Me. You once said that Idaho is being unfairly portrayed as an anti-human rights state, Governor Batt. Well, I don't know why I should have said that, but I did. As a journalist who watched you in the legislature, this is me. As a journalist who watched you in the legislature as governor, it seemed to me that you always had a sense of fairness about people, especially people who were not being treated fairly, Governor Batt. Well, like I said, my mother influenced me a lot in that. She believed in everybody getting treated equally, not unequal. Be aware that people had certain rights of their own and that we didn't just trample on them. Me. Back in the 1960s, when you were championing the Human Rights Commission and the first Idaho Civil Rights Bill, that probably wasn't very popular with some people, Governor Batt. Yeah, I carried on my own hearings for 50 days. 50 days. He carried on hearings for 50 days. I had people come in and tell me what their problems were. I think I convinced most of the legislators that we should get a Human Rights Commission. Me. You did that to create a fair playing field? Governor Batt. Yeah, I mean, there were prejudices within the public that were tolerated. In fact, they were backed by the laws. So we needed to change the law. That's what we did. Me. You also fought to have the state recognize Martin Luther King's birthday. It took a while. Idaho was one of the last states in the Union to recognize his birthday. Governor Batt. Wonderful man, referring to Martin Luther King. He just said what he thought. He was brave about it, but he wasn't trying to stir anybody up. Good man. Of course, he got assassinated. Me. Looking back on your political career, would you say that your fight for human rights was one of the most important things you accomplished? Governor Batt. It was important. It was perhaps my greatest legacy. Just going to read.
My stuff is on page 71.
Okay, you get to read next time you write the book. Just kidding. Your turn's coming. Yeah, right. Did you find something to read? No? Okay. I should have done this earlier, but I'm going to get my... I never wear these things in public. Okay. They help a heck of a lot, I'll tell you. Okay, this is from my introduction. In all the years I've known and covered Batt, that's as a journalist, I always considered him Idaho's version of Harry Truman. Like the former governor or former president, Batt is short in stature for a politician, but always boxed above his weight. He answered questions in a straightforward and clipped fashion. When Batt was on Viewpoint, which I hosted for 10 years, I had to prepare twice as many questions as I did for any other guest, just to fill 30 minutes of program. And like the piano-playing Truman, Batt is an accomplished musician, playing with the likes of the great Gene Harris and Chet Atkins. Even in his late 80s, I watched him wow the crowd at the annual Curtis Stigers concert to benefit the Interfaith Sanctuary at the Egyptian Theater. That night, Stigers proclaimed Batt his, quote, favorite Republican, something for decades many people, Republican, Democrat, and Independent, would say. Batt shares other qualities with the former Democratic president. He cared about and battled for the underdog. He believed everyone deserved a square deal. Batt still doesn't have much tolerance when people are treated unfairly, especially those in the minority or exist on the margins of society. As a young man, he quit his membership in the Elks Club when it rejected one of his closest friends because of his Japanese heritage. And like Truman, Batt's personal and political integrity was above reproach. There was never a hint of scandal in his personal or political life. When he could have taken unfair advantage of a political rival, he declined out of a sense of fair play. Batt will be remembered most for three things: his unwavering support for human rights, for preventing the import of radioactive waste into Idaho while cleaning up the dangerous old waste, and his knack for finding common ground, even friendship with members of the opposite political party. He achieved this distinction while maintaining his own conservative Republican values of fiscal responsibility and small government. Batt never saw his political rivals as the enemy, only as people who held different political views from his. As I write this, it occurs to me that Phil Batt is the last of a generation of leaders who shaped the best parts of Idaho that we have today. Gone are most of Batt's contemporaries. Gone are nearly all of the lawmakers who served with Batt in the 1965 Idaho legislature, widely considered the greatest session in Idaho history. Gone is Democratic Governor John Evans, his political rival, and yet someone he respected for his contributions to Idaho. Gone is Senator James McClure, who played a critical role in negotiating Batt's nuclear waste agreement. Gone is Cecil Andrus, the Democrat with whom Batt is often associated with because of their unique political friendship, dogged effort to remove radioactive waste from Idaho, and because of the way they both carried themselves when they disagreed. After Lindy reads, and Dirk, you want to read from your essay? Do you want? Can I make one comment? Yeah.
I'm not going to read. You need to buy the book. But, Phil, I did buy you a birthday gift. Patricia and I did. It's of a great mutual friend of ours. It's of a great mutual musician of yours. It's a beautiful CD by Gene Harris. Because I think some of the finest evenings any of us ever had was going to the Idaho and listening to Gene Harris and you and your clarinet play. It was magnificent. I think those are some of the happiest moments I ever saw of your life. And on this CD, Gene's daughter Nikki is singing, and also Curtis Stigers, some wonderful Idaho gems. So anyway, that's your gift. Okay, happy birthday.
Very nice, Dirk. I would like to invite Lindy High, who was one of my essay writers, to come up and read an excerpt, and then I'm just going to close with one more reading from Lucky.
Governor Little, when I went to work for him, I did have dark hair, and Governor Kempthorne, I got vetted too. I'm just going to read two brief incidents from my essay, but there's a little background to the first one. When we first went to work for Governor Batt, he would write "See me" on a document that we needed to bring to his attention. We needed to talk to him, but that took too long to write, so he shortened it to S-I-M-I, see me. And when you got a see me, you knew it was time to get into the governor's office. It's a good thing that see me was hard to mess up, because Batt had and probably still has, one flaw: his handwriting. He should have been a doctor because he would have had a head start on writing those unintelligible prescriptions. One time he handed me a yellow legal pad on which he'd written something he wanted me to see. I began to read, but I was reading it slowly. Really, the handwriting was hard to decipher. And eventually he snatched the pad out of my hands and began to briskly read out loud until he leaned down and pointed to a scribble and asked me if I knew what the word was. I laughed so hard I almost fell out of my chair. Things didn't always go smoothly, of course. At one point, some group, and I honestly don't remember who they were or what they wanted, announced ahead of time that they were going to go to the governor's office and make a citizen's arrest. They were all milling around in the reception area when Batt strode out of his office, glared up at the big burly visitors, and asked them just what they planned to do with him. They were speechless. After a moment, Batt announced, "Well, I've got work to do," and turned on his heels and went back into the office. And that ended the great citizens' confrontation.
So on the back of the book, I wrote this, and I thought it was a nice way to maybe end the reading tonight. In Lucky, former Idaho Governor Phil Batt tells us that he has lived a lucky life. It is true that Batt has lived a charmed life, but it took more than luck for his half-century-long and distinguished political career. Wisdom and wit, and more than a heavy dose of common sense and decency contributed to his success as a legislator, party chair, lieutenant governor, and governor. Batt brought a practical, businesslike discipline to the State House, but one tempered with a soft heart for Idahoans who needed support: the young, the vulnerable, and the marginalized. A champion of conservative fiscal values, he was also a champion of human values, like equality and fairness.
Hello, I'm Richard Clouch, and I've had the privilege in my career and my life in Idaho of having worked many years for the Idaho Shakespeare Festival. I played a number of kings, princes, courtiers, lords, dukes, but I have never been on the stage with this much actual political royalty before. In 2012, the Idaho State Legislature passed Bill number 451, which, per its official language, designated and declared a poem as the state poem of Idaho. The poem was entitled, "We Were Minors Then," and it was written by the Honorable Phil Batt. The poem commemorated the 91 men who lost their lives in the Sunshine Mine disaster in 1972, just outside of Kellogg, Idaho. The poem also honored the families, the loved ones, the friends who so immediately and so enduringly had to grieve that day. And finally, the poem celebrated so many Idahoans across the state who came together to help one another in that dim and difficult time. We were minors then. Our tongues have not tasted the bitter dust. The roar of the drills has never reached our ears. Unfelt to us is the darkness of the shafts. Yet we are Idahoans, and we were minors then. We are farmers. We run the water from melted snows onto parched desert soil. The planted seeds take root and grow. The harvest fills our granaries. The pits are strange to us, but we are Idahoans, and we were miners then. We are loggers. We are your neighbors. We share the high country with you, but we sing our song to the buzzing of the chainsaw and do our dance on the spinning logs. There's no room in the mine for our trees to fall, but we are Idahoans, and we were miners then. We are cattlemen, innkeepers, merchants, men of the law and men of the cloth. Ours are 1,000 trades, but only you go into the bowels of the earth to do your daily chores. Yet we are all Idahoans, and we were miners then. Yes, we were miners. We waited in spirit at the mouth of the pit, ached in unison at the news of the dead, joined the jubilation at the rescue of the living, marveled at the poise of the tiny community. And we became strong. The flux of the widow's tears welded your strength into our bodies. And we were all Idahoans. And we were all miners. And we were all proud.
Close out this evening, we would like to sing happy birthday to Governor Batt. And we have a small cake provided to, for him to blow out his candles. So. Any moment now. Lighting in real time. There we go. All right, if we can sing. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Governor Batt. Happy birthday to you. All right, well, we have several events for you to adjourn to this evening. In the Research Center, right through these double doors, right down the hall, we are inviting you to join Rod Grammer and Governor Batt for a book signing. The books are available for purchase in the Research Center. Also, in our Research Center is our temporary exhibit space, where if you would like a tour of the Governor's Vault at the Idaho State Archives, please congregate there. Tours will depart every 15 minutes until the closing of the event. And we also have our virtual programming from the Idaho State Museum available to be viewed in our multipurpose room right down the hall and to the right. The event will close at 6:30 this evening, but please feel free to mix and mingle and leave in your own time. Yes, we also have birthday cake available in the multipurpose room, so if everyone here can enjoy some birthday cake along with Governor Batt.
Butch, would you lead us? Get 3 cheers for the man.
Hip, hip, hooray! Hip, hip, hooray! Hip, hip, hooray!
Congratulations.